Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webcast sponsored by Salesforce. I'm Rob O'Regan, Global Content Director with Foundry, and I'll be your moderator today. I'm joined by a great panel of speakers who will discuss how CIOs can leverage data and analytics platforms to increase value across the business. Let's meet our guests. First is Mark Kaczynski, SVP of Finance and Technology with Nissan Americas. Hello, Mark. Please tell us a bit about your role.
Sure. I'm Mark Kaczynski. I'm with Nissan. I am the CFO as well as the head of IT and IS for Nissan Americas. So I'm in a unique position in terms of understanding the information technology needs of the organization, as well as responsible for the financial activities of the organization as well. So it gives me a unique perspective, maybe that others don't see all the time.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear more from that perspective as we get into the discussion. Thanks, Mark. Next is Martin Kastner, a principal with KPMG, who heads up the firm's analytics and AI practice. Hi, Martin. What can you tell us about what you do at KPMG?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. So Martin Kastner, I'm a partner with KPMG, and I wear multiple hats. So one, like you said, I lead the analytics and AI team in the U.S. I specifically focus on industrial manufacturing industry and our clients in that industry. So I really like to bring the technology and all the great opportunities that we have to offer and that technology offers these days to really solve specific industry problems. So we're probably going to get more into that discussion, but very excited to be here. And I think there's great opportunities leveraging AI in the industry.
We definitely will get into that more, Martin. Thanks for joining us. We're also joined by Vandana Gangwar, SVP of Data Cloud at Salesforce. Welcome, Vandana. What can you tell us about your role at Salesforce?
Hello, everyone. I'm Vandana, part of Salesforce product team focused on data cloud, with emphasis on building the customer 360, as in the cross cloud and the ecosystem around the data cloud, which is going to help enable our customers move in their digital transformation journey. So looking forward to learning from what Mark and Martin have to say from their expertise vantage.
Great. So let's jump in with some context here. What are some of the challenges and pressures that CIOs are facing as they look to empower data-driven decision-making more broadly at their organizations? Martin, we'll start with you on that.
Yeah, I think there's technology always offers great opportunities, but I think we also see a shift in consumer expectations and a shift in the industry. So a lot of the automotive OEMs and larger the industrial manufacturing industry is going through a transition where they're kind of shifting from just being great engineering companies to really have to understand the ultimate customer and how the customers are using their products. So it's almost like they're becoming more of a engineering company that also needs to embrace the consumer industry as well as high-tech industry. So there's lots of different changes that are happening in the industry. And I think client expectations are kind of driving that as well. So from our perspective, we like to bring the industrial and the functional knowledge really into the analytics and really help our clients think through how they need to change their operating model and how they need to be operating a little bit differently. So it's a very exciting time right now, I think.
Yeah, exciting and a bit terrifying all at the same time, I would imagine. Vandana, what would you add there in terms of some of the challenges that you're seeing organizations face around their data and analytics strategies?
There are three ways that we have seen customers use their data strategy to enable. The first and foremost, as Martin called out, it is to do with improving the productivity of people, which is how do they automate it, how do they personalize it, and how do they take it to the next level. The second aspect is where the customers are pushing it, which is improving the customer experience. So this is where the end-to-end journey from marketing to sales to customer commerce to services to providing them that personalized experience, which truly differentiates one vendor from another vendor. The third aspect, which is becoming even more important in today's frame because the technology has made it available, is thinking of the newer business models. And this is where we have seen several of our customers for Data Cloud who have totally taken their business models to the next level in terms of creating newer revenue streams and enabling what would have been a cost center into a profit center, or creating a next generation of customer experience for which customers are more willing to pay for. So that is how I would see the three aspects of where customers are taking it as an upside to leverage the data strategy that they have.
Great, thank you. Mark, how does what Martin and Vandana have described compare with your own data-driven journey at Nissan Americas?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like any journey, technology is something where, I always say it's going to be a marathon. It's not a sprint, and it's a journey that everyone's been on for a while. So it's a continuous journey. I think AI and some of the new developments and new technologies coming on board are going to maybe accelerate the pace of technology adoption. Certainly, we have within any organization, I think you have early adopters to that technology. And I think the key is, to kind of embrace that journey and the organization embrace that journey. I think one of the things we're seeing today is that, data governance, data structure, the data is more critical. And I think that there's an understanding of that within the organization. Martin talked about different revenue streams, certainly in automotive. We see more emphasis on other revenue streams outside of just selling the vehicle, selling subscription services. There's mobility, autonomous drive. There's a whole host of new technologies coming in that give more value to the customer, but data is at the core of it, and trying to unlock that value for the customer is going to be key. But again, I think that from my perspective, it's how do you kind of progress that journey and accelerate that journey from because I don't think it's going to be a choice. I think every organization is going to be on this journey. It's how quickly and the organizations move and embrace some of the technology that's going to be available.
Great. As I understand it, Mark, you've created a chief data office to enable and unlock some of this business value that you described. Can you talk about that a little bit? And I understand as well that it reports into the business side of the house. So talk about that kind of connection between IT and business as it relates to the chief data office.
The key for the data office was kind of enabling three pillars: data governance, business transformation, and data and analytics. Clearly the data office isn't IT. It's not about application development. It's not about necessarily even automation. It's about providing the toolkits to the business themselves so that we can have what we call data athletes within the business to make better business decisions, to enable them to look at information differently and then unlock things that may have been hidden before. So, what are those key business insights that we can unlock using some of the techniques that the data office will allow us to utilize? But I think it's key to have the business really thinking about what are their priorities in terms of business needs, and utilizing the data office as an enabler to do that. But it's key to have all the businesses really engaged with the transformation of how we use data within all the functions.
Interesting. You had mentioned AI before. Martin, curious to hear kind of what you're hearing from your clients, what you're learning about how AI, and particularly generative AI, are impacting data-driven strategies.
So when we think of generative AI, we kind of think of it in three different high-level use cases. One is the consumer or employee productivity gains, where you just use it to improve a writing, summarize a text or something, where you just put something very specific into like a ChatGPT or some large language model. The other thing is that we will expect that all of our alliance partners, all software companies, are going to come out with GenAI functionality embedded into their software and into their functionality. So it will be part of all kind of software suites. Where we as KPMG think about AI and where it's really transformational is when you think about large process transformation. So in the past, we have been thinking about how do we automate the steps in a process or automate parts of a process. What Gen AI and AI is really allowing us to do is to think about how do I get from the input of a process to the output of a process in the most efficient way, and leverage automation as a first step rather than trying to automate previously manual steps. And if we think about automation first, then we start to think, where do we integrate the subject matter experts into the process most effectively? So it's almost like a symbiosis of the subject matter experts working with the machine together. And that's really what's driving a much higher level of automation of process and complete transformation in some instances. I think that's very exciting. And I think we're already starting to see a lot of benefits in productivity and accuracy and risk reduction.
Vandana, we know Salesforce has invested heavily in AI. What would you add there in terms of how CIOs should be thinking about AI in relation to their overall data strategy?
I would just build on where Martin and Mark were leading to, which were very good points. And I would add to it, it's very important to define the limits, to define the project, to define the scope, to define what exactly we are trying to do, and also to define the right tools to make it happen. Because you do not want to have a very complicated piece where you can just run a time series old school data science model. Related to it is the part where people try to think that they have to be data scientists really to be doing and leveraging Gen AI. But that is where technology has changed and evolved significantly with the large language models, with the prompt builders. And this is where Salesforce is investing quite a bit to get AI in the hands of people who really know how to do their business very well, who may not be the data scientist. And this is where I think Mark was going more in the hands of not the IT and the CIO function, but a CDO function outside of it.
Mark, anything you can share about kind of how you're using or experimenting with AI or Gen AI and kind of what you're learning along the way?
Sure. As I think several of the speakers have mentioned, Martin and Vanda, both have talked about not eating the elephant, but taking small bites, right? And looking at pilots. And that's exactly what we're doing, right? So we're trying to utilize it in a variety of ways, across multiple functions. So if we talk about like the TCS function within our organization or the customer satisfaction team, we're trying to use predictive analytics to look at, when a battery may fail, for example. So using connected data from the vehicle, and then using predictive analytics to say, okay, if these certain things happen, there's a high likelihood that battery will fail within the next, certain window. So things of that nature. But we're also trying to utilize it, from a sales perspective to look at things like sales forecasting or effectiveness of various incentive tactics and other things. So I think that's, one of the things we're finding. And the key for us is being able to look at really granular data, and when, a lot of times people are looking at averages and so forth. And by looking at, trying to get the data at the most granular level, we're uncovering insights that otherwise were hidden in the averages. So that's a key for us that we're looking at, as well as trying to expand what other functions can we utilize this in, because it has applications, whether it's HR or whether it's purchasing or, trying to get those functions on board as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Great. We've touched on this as we've gone along, but I'm curious in terms of kind of the guidance you'd provide around how CIOs should be tying all of these pieces together. Vandana, what key components do they need to have in place to improve their data maturity, start capturing more business value, all the things we've talked about to this point?
That's a great question, Rob. And this is foundational and fundamental in so many ways. And as Mark was alluding to a little bit in terms of the use cases of that, the first and foremost people have to define is the specificity of the use case. And I cannot say it enough because if you try to boil the ocean, you may not get anywhere anytime soon. So that is where define the use case, whether it is in marketing, where you want to stitch the data together to personalize the user experience across different assets that the customers may have. Or you want to then connect that data and create it into a digital sales and marketing function where you want to reach in a personalized manner to a breadth of the customers that are going to help create the new value for the firm. Then think about taking all of this in terms of the automated prospecting, leveraging the Gen AI, where machine can help you personalize and write that particular email that may have been too difficult to write if you have to write it 1,000 times over. Then taking it to the next level in terms of enabling that very personalized sales experience, and then taking it, connecting it in terms of the customer flywheel for the commerce transaction, and taking from the commerce transaction to that customer success, which is where Mark was going. We are increasingly seeing our customers leverage Data Cloud for the purposes of what may have started as a marketing investment into improving and taking the customer experience in the contact centers to reduce their cost of the calls, to reduce the time that people have to spend, to improve the quality of the conversation, and to create very happy, satisfied customers. But that's not it. As Mark was referring to, these days we have lots of data that gets generated out of IoT sensors, which are all over the assets, the vehicles, and the manufacturing facilities. But that generates a lot of data, like really a lot of data to be processed. And that is where the technology that we are working on comes in together to help make meaningful sense out of it, so that machine is reading the aberrations and abnormalities so as to trigger the action where it is needed, and a manual person does not have to sit in there to observe that versus take it to the next level. But that is not it. It also helps create that next generation of customer experience. As Mark was talking about the car battery, we are seeing a lot of the auto manufacturers who are personalizing it to create that service appointment. But why just say that your car needs a new battery versus also take it to the next level to say, can I help you schedule the appointment where you can take the car, and how does it fit well in your calendar to take it to the dealership to change it and get you a better experience. So it's a whole gamut of it, the whole spectrum of it that people are trying to work on, and they are finding value in different aspects of it. But it comes down to, where are you starting? The starting point is the most important one, because I have seen some of the customers who try to do everything and they go nowhere. And then there is another set of customers who feel so jaw dropped by looking at all the power of it that they just sit on the sidelines trying to think about where is it that they want to start, or waiting for that perfect scenario to come in, or that perfect data strategy to be aligned. The starting point for them should be now and right now in terms of defining that they should start. It's good to fail fast and learn fast.
Got it. Got it. Good. Thank you. Martin, anything you'd add there in terms of, practical guidance for getting started or continuing your journey in terms of a data maturity standpoint?
Yeah, I think I'll echo what Vandana and what Mark have said already, but I really wanted to emphasize that we're starting to see the convergence of business data ownership and IT as an enabler to really drive new insights. And when we think about data, it's typically data that comes from not just a single source, but multiple sources. So what you're going to produce, how you're going to better sell and better understand your customers might come from understanding your channels, your customers, your supply chain, your cost structure. So that already shows you that there's lots of different data that needs to come together. The business needs to own that data, and any work that you do needs to be business-led and value-driven. But it's really where the business needs to work also across departments to really bring things together. And then the integration of these data sources, is the technology and all that. That's what's really driving new insights.
Great. You provided some great use cases, some practical guidance for getting started or kind of evolving your journey. How about some closing thoughts from each of you? Mark, we'll start with you.
Sure. A lot of what Martin and Vandana mentioned resonate with me in terms of kind of our journey. What I would say is, it's a big piece of it is about getting the blocking and tackling of data quality, data governance, and so forth set, and the organization and the functions understanding their requirements to on that piece of the journey. The other thing that I think is key is identifying where you can have significant value add, and try to take those kind of pilot initiatives and try to grow off of those, right? Because once you see success, other organization, other people get excited about that and want to join, right? So I think that's another element that's key, and I think The other thing that I would say is, it's going to be transformative in terms of how people work, and having the change management associated with that, and having the buy-in of the organization is going to be key as well. So business transformation and change management is going to be a key element of this as well, and how to upskill individuals so that they understand the future. I think those are all key elements for me.
All great points. Thank you, Mark. Martin, your key takeaways, please.
Yeah, I think it's similar to what Mark was saying. So obviously technology and the capabilities are moving very, very fast. At the same time, adoption and expectations from employees and consumers is also, happening. And I think we need to rethink the combination of the human subject matter experts. Mark mentioned the reskilling of people is going to be critical. Data ownership, data quality, also the granularity of data. Sometimes you might think, I think Mark talked about earlier about averages, but really getting insights into granularity of certain transactions, which can then help you to aggregate at any level, as well as the technology that's becoming more and more capable. So how do we combine the humans with the data, with the technology, and provide the right combination to really drive this transformation? And then specifically to us for KPMG, I think of us as a technology service provider, and we need to understand our clients' data, our clients' business. We need to understand the industry. We need to understand the business problem that we're trying to solve, as well as the technology. So it's also I see it as this kind of what we're doing here, this triangular relationship between a client, the technology, and the service providers, who all need to kind of work together to really solve these complex issues that we're seeing today.
Great wrap up. Thank you. Vandana, your closing thoughts, please.
I would say the first aspect is building on top of where Martin and Mark were going, which is ensuring that you have a vision of what you're trying to do. So do not start by technology and buy the tools and think about now what to do and how to jigsaw puzzle it together, versus prioritize which is the business problem, which is the business priority, which is the process that you are looking at automating and taking it to the next level. Because as has been discussed, technology is moving very fast, and that is where first define that very well, and then look at what all technology options are there, where Salesforce is enabling, where the data is coming in. Understanding that landscape would be very helpful in then enabling that part of the process. And last but not the least, I would say culture eats strategy for a breakfast. So make sure that you're bringing your people along, that it is not going to replace anything. It's just going to make people more productive, create better experience, and upskilling that workforce so that they are the champions. And then picking up a few of those champions and making them as accelerators for the broader rollout, because adoption is the key of everything. You can have really a gold standard technology, but if it's not adopted across your business, across your customers, it does not go very far. So that is where thinking about the adoption in terms of generating that ROI, so that then you can fuel and think about the next business process that you would want to automate and take it to the best level of experience.
That's a great point to end on. Mark, Martin, Vandana, really enjoyed the conversation today. Thanks so much for your time and insights.
Thank you for having us.
Great, thank you.
And thank you all for joining us. For more information, you can check out the additional resources on this page. For Foundry and Salesforce, I'm Rob O'Regan. Be well, everyone.